Joining us here on the show to look ahead to the Super Bowl and some of the metrics, some of the analytics, some of the numbers involved in it is DraftKings Live analyst Patrick Mayo. Patrick, good morning.
Hey, what's going on, dude?
How are you, buddy?
It's not too early for me to be up yet, so this is perfect.
Okay, very good. So I want to ask you, what's your initial reaction when you saw the line open up, Patriots by 5.5?
Well, I mean, when I first saw it drop, it was 7, and then 15 minutes later, it just immediately bombed. So someone hit that pretty hard as soon as the line came out. So with the adjustment, I actually think it probably drops still. I mean, you're going to get normally speaking, you're going to get a lot of public money coming in on the Patriots just because everyone remembers watching them in the Super Bowl every year. But with Philly being such a big market and so many Philly fans scattered about, and they haven't played in the Super Bowl over 10 years now, that you might see a sentiment of people just rushing to the counter and just pounding some Eagles. So I'm curious to see where it ends up. I'm going to say it's probably going to end up around -4 Patriots.
Do you think the initial 7-point line was too steep, that we weren't giving, or at least Vegas wasn't giving the Philadelphia Eagles enough respect out of that?
It was, but at the same time, whenever you have the Patriots involved in one of these big games, normally you can't make the line big enough for people to run in and pound the Patriots. So I get it, but I think it was a bit inflated as it came out.
So when we watch the NFC Championship game, we all kind of assume that Nick Foles is just a game manager. Foles didn't play particularly well down the stretch. He wasn't great against the Falcons, was good, but they only scored 15 points. Does that put to bed some of the concerns that Nick Foles can't have a big game, or should we be just considering it maybe a one-off for Foles?
Well, I mean, this is going to be a significantly easier matchup for Nick Foles. The Patriots just lack pass rush at every single point. Even when they blitz, they can barely get to the quarterback. So some of the plays that we saw Foles make against the Vikings, kind of swarming out of the pressure and opening up stuff downfield, I guess it works one of two ways. The Patriots will scheme better in coverage and probably have everyone covered going down the field, because with Minnesota, a lot of their secondary, I mean, just the way that it was propped up this year was based a lot on the pass rush. They didn't have to blitz. They could get to the quarterback, make him either throw into tight windows or throw too quickly. The Patriots won't be able to do that, but at the same time, they'll be able to sit back and try to let Foles make some mistakes. Now, the good thing is, no matter what Foles that we've seen, the good Foles, the bad Foles, the mediocre Foles, he doesn't really make a ton of mistakes. He just is unwilling to throw into tight windows.
Patrick Mayo joins us, DraftKings Live analyst, looking ahead to the Super Bowl. Now, of course, Gronk misses the second half of that game, and that opens up a window for Danny Amendola to do what he did. We don't know what the status is for Gronk moving into the Super Bowl, but if Gronk doesn't play in the Super Bowl, is Amendola the biggest beneficiary from that?
It would seem to be, and it all comes down to trust factor on these tight window throws, and when you need to get 7 yards on the dot, it's going to be to Danny Amendola. Tom Brady trusts his hands. I mean, we've seen with Brandon Cooks that he's going to be a big play guy, but he still drops wide open passes, and that just can't happen in the Super Bowl. And all these playoff games throughout the years, people can talk to Danny Amendola coming up clutch in the playoffs when it gets cold out. It's Danny time, but I mean, the guy's hurt most of the year anyway, so maybe he could do this in the regular season. We just never know. So keep him healthy till right now. He would stand to be the biggest benefactor here if Gronk misses the game, but I don't think that Gronk is missing this game.
New England only rushed for 46 yards on Sunday. Their high rusher was Dion Lewis with just 34 yards. Do you think that the Patriots will run that little again in the Super Bowl?
I think it depends on how the beginning of the game ends up going. A lot of the reason that they weren't able to really establish the run is because Jacksonville jumped up early, and they decided, you know what? We're going to play catch-up this entire time. We're going to run a lot of really, really short passes to the running backs, to Danny Amendola, and that will just mirror our running game. It's a lot like what we saw with the Patriots back in 2004, 2005, when they were using Kevin Falk as an extension of their running game. Throw these very high percentage passes that only go for 3, 4, 5 yards at a time, but have the opportunity to spring one of these backs. When you have a 3 running back system and all 3 are capable pass catchers, it makes a lot of sense just to pass to them instead of running it up the gut every single time. But I would think that we're going to see Dion Lewis with at least 15 carries in this game.
We know that Edelman has been injured all season long, so that's opened up stuff for Cooks and Amendola. Gronk obviously is a future Hall of Famer, but I think it kind of undersells what Philadelphia's skill position guys bring to the table. Ertz, Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, Jay Ajayi, LeGarrette Blount, Corey Clement. Is it possible, as you look at the skill position guys, the Eagles actually have a deeper arsenal of weapons?
Yeah, I think they have a more diverse skill set, but this all depends on if Gronk plays. If Gronk plays, they have the best skill position player in the game outside of quarterback. I mean, they would have the best quarterback and the best receiving option. And even, I think that Dion Lewis is far and away the best running back in this game, too. Jay Ajayi is wildly overrated, and they kind of trickles down to Doug Peterson not using him all the time. It's why you use this running back rotation. So I think that at full health, especially if Chris Hogan can get healthy, clearly he's not right since he was dealing with that shoulder problem. They've rushed him back because they need the bodies. They can get him back up to full strength. I think it's close, but especially in the receiving game, the Patriots would have the advantage at full health, or at least 90% health.
Tell me why you think Jay Ajayi is wildly overrated.
I mean, I think there's a reason that Miami gave him up for, what was it, a fourth-round pick? Please. And if you're really going to be one of these workhorse running backs and not be a guy who has two massive knee problems, that you're going to see, if you're really able to establish the run with him and not just have it give the ball off to LeGarrette Blount or bring in Clement during passing downs, you would see him rush the ball 15, 20 times a game. And just they've shown an unwillingness to do that. He's had a couple of big plays, but it's a lot like the guy that he took over for in Miami, Lamar Miller. He's always at his best when he's getting 12 carries, not 20. So he's more of a roll-time player. He's a split back.
Interesting. Patrick Mayo, DraftKings live analyst, joins us here on the show. So now coming up for the Super Bowl, DraftKings has something called a showdown where fantasy contestants put together a lineup of 4 offensive players, 2 individual defensive players. And this is interesting because what's the scoring going to be for the defensive players?
So the scoring, I mean, there's a litany of scoring that you can really get into in terms of the defensive players. But really, if you're looking for someone to score a base style of points, it's tackle. One point, one tackle. It's pretty easy for that one. Get a half point for an assisted tackle. But where it really comes in, that there are bonuses if you get 8 or more tackles. So if you have a middle linebacker who, you can think of like London Fletcher back in the day, just soaking in everything because the defensive line was so poor, all the tackling duties fell to the linebackers, that guy would end up with like 20 points a game. But what I'm looking for, I really like to focus and pairing either defensive linemen and a cornerback on each team, or pairing up a receiver from the team that, let's say Gronk sits and Danny Amendola is in the game, and we can project out something like 8 to 12 targets for Danny Amendola. If you can figure out the cornerback who will be covering him, Danny Amendola runs a lot of very short, low A-dot routes, high completion percentage for Danny Amendola every time that Tom Brady throws to him. So there's no negative for having your defensive player scored on. So if you can find the guy that's covering Danny Amendola and he ends up catching 8 passes for 89 yards, presumably the guy that you've taken from the other team, whatever Philly cornerback that it's going to be, is going to end up with 8 tackles or 7 tackles. So that's a weird correlation that you can put together when constructing your lineup because the scoring doesn't really matter against. Hopefully you can find Danny Amendola into the end zone a few times and you'd be good. But pressure is where it all really stems from. If you can get a sack, it's a bunch of points. If you can get a fumble, it's a bunch of points. If you recover that fumble, it's a bunch of points. So the more pressure you can put on a quarterback from your individual defensive player, the more upside your guys are going to have to score because a sack can lead to a fumble, which can lead to a recovery, which can lead to a touchdown, and all those things put together is worth way more than 10 tackles.
That's pretty cool. DraftKings Showdown. You could enter to win the final Super Bowl contest of the year at DraftKings.com/showdown. Check it out. Pretty cool. Good stuff, Patrick. Appreciate the time, my man. Thanks.